Education is no longer restricted to classroom. www.viducation.in Creating educational video books from textbooks for teachers students. CBSE Class 9 Science Chapter 7 Diversity in Living Organisms by www.viducation.in. Diversity means noticeable heterogeneity, and heterogeneity is the quality of being diverse and not comparable in kind. Biodiversity means existence of a wide variety of species in a natural habitat. There are millions of species on this earth. For anybody, it is impossible to study about each of them in his lifetime. Classification makes it easy to study the organisms, on the basis of certain common characters. Examples of the range of variations in life forms: 1. Ants, cockroaches, spiders, houseflies, etc. live in the same building. They look entirely different from each other, yet all of them belong to Arthropoda. 2. Humans, monkeys, cats and dogs live in the same neighborhood. They look entirely different, yet all of them belong to Mammalia. 3. A nearby park may show a wide variety of plants, right from small grass to a giant banyan tree. Aristotle classified animals according to whether they lived on land, in water or in the air. This is a very simple way of looking at life, but misleading too. For example, animals that live in the sea include corals, whales, octopuses, starfish and sharks. We can immediately see that these are very different from each other in numerous ways. In fact, their habitat is the only point they share in common. This is not an appropriate way of making groups of organisms to study and think about. The kind of cells an organism is made of is more basic characteristic of classifying organism because it gives a scientific angle to classification. Moreover, a particular dwelling place can be full of organisms of a wide variety. The eukaryotic cell has membrane-bound organelles, including a nucleus, which allows cellular processes to be carried out efficiently in isolation from each other. Therefore, organisms which do not have a clearly demarcated nucleus and other organelles would need to have their biochemical pathways organized in very different ways. This would have an effect on every aspect of cell design. Further, nucleated cells would have the capacity to participate in making a multicellular organism because they can take up specialized functions. Therefore, nucleus is a basic characteristic of classification. Do the cells occur singly or are they grouped together, and do they live as an indivisible group? Cells that group together to form a single organism use the principle of division of labor. In such a body design, all cells would not be identical. Instead, groups of cells will carry out specialized functions. This makes a very basic distinction in the body designs of organisms. As a result, an amoeba and a worm are very different in their body design. Do organisms produce their own food through the process of photosynthesis? Being able to produce one's own food versus having to get food from outside would make very different body designs necessary. Of the organisms that perform photosynthesis plants, what is the level of organization of their body? Of the animals, how does the individual's body develop and organize its different parts, and what are the specialized organs found for different functions? Most life forms that we see today have arisen by an accumulation of changes in body design that allow the organism possessing them to survive better. Charles Darwin first described this idea of evolution in 1859 in his book, The Origin of Species. An organism which is simple is called primitive. On the other hand, an organism with high level of division of labor, by formation of organs and organ system, is called advanced. Complexity in body design evolves because of necessity to adapt according to the changing environment. Hence, a complex organism would be an advanced one, in comparison to a simple organism. Biologists, such as Ernst Haeckel 1894, Robert Whittaker 1959 and Carl Woese 1977 have tried to classify all living organisms into broad categories, called kingdoms. The classification Whittaker proposed has 5 kingdoms, Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia, and is widely used. These groups are formed on the basis of their cell structure, mode and source of nutrition and body organization. The modification was introduced by dividing the Monera into Archaebacteria or Archaea and Eubacteria or bacteria is also in use. Further classification is done by naming the subgroups at various levels as given in the following scheme: kingdom, phylum for animals / division for plants, class, order, family, genus, species. Kingdom Monera. Monera is a kingdom that contains unicellular organisms without a nucleus, i.e., a prokaryotic cell organization such as bacteria. These organisms do not have a defined nucleus or organelles, nor do any of them show multicellular body designs. On the other hand, they show diversity based on many other characteristics. Some of them have cell walls while some do not. Of course, having or not having a cell wall has very different effects on body design here from having or not having a cell wall in multicellular organisms. The mode of nutrition of organisms in this group can be either by synthesizing their own food autotrophic or getting it from the environment heterotrophic. This group includes bacteria, blue-green algae or cyanobacteria, and Mycoplasma. Bacteria, blue-green algae or cyanobacteria. Kingdom Protista, protists, are a diverse group of eukaryotic microorganisms, included mostly unicellular organisms that did not fit into the other kingdoms. Protista includes many kinds of unicellular eukaryotic organisms. Some of these organisms use appendages, such as hair-like cilia or whip-like flagella for moving around. Their mode of nutrition can be autotrophic or heterotrophic. Examples are unicellular algae, diatoms and protozoans. Chlorella is a genus of single-cell green algae, belonging to the kingdom Protista. Kingdom Fungi. Kingdom Fungi includes microorganisms such as yeasts and molds, as well as the more familiar mushrooms. Funaria are heterotrophic eukaryotic organisms. They use decaying organic material as food and are therefore called saprophytes. Many of them have the capacity to become multicellular organisms at certain stages in their lives. They have cell walls made of a tough complex sugar called chitin. Examples are yeast and mushrooms. Aspergillus is commonly found in soil, plant debris, and indoor air. However, it can grow typically on any type of surface. It is typically found in basements, air conditioning coils, ceiling joists, subflooring, leaking roofs and areas with high humidity, flooded or water-damaged areas. Aspergillus can grow on many surfaces such as wood, soil, plants, drywall, sheetrock. Lichens are composite organisms consisting of a fungus, known as mycobiont, and a photosynthetic partner known as the photobiont or phycobiont, growing together in a symbiotic relationship. The photobiont is usually either a green alga or cyanobacterium. Kingdom Plantae form a clade that includes the flowering plants, conifers and other gymnosperms, ferns, club mosses, hornworts, liverworts and mosses, as well as, depending on definition, the green algae. These are multicellular eukaryotes with cell walls. They are autotrophs and use chlorophyll for photosynthesis. Thus, all plants are included in this group. Since plants and animals are most visible forms of the diversity of life around us, these include all organisms which are multicellular eukaryotes without cell walls. They are heterotrophs. Kingdom Animalia animals are multicellular, eukaryotic organisms of the kingdom Animalia or metazoa. Their body plan eventually becomes fixed as they develop, although some undergo a process of metamorphosis later on in their lives. Most animals are motile, meaning they can move spontaneously and independently. All animals must ingest other organisms or their products for sustenance. Animals are multicellular, eukaryotic organisms of the kingdom Animalia or metazoa. Their body plan eventually becomes fixed as they develop, although some undergo a process of metamorphosis later on in their lives. Most animals are motile, meaning they can move spontaneously and independently. All animals must ingest other organisms or their products for sustenance. Animalia include all organisms which are multicellular eukaryotes without cell walls. Show multicellular they are heterotrophs. On the other hand, they show diversity based on many other characteristics. Some of them have cell walls while some do not. Of course, having or not having a cell wall has very different effects on body design here from having or not having a cell wall in multicellular organisms. The mode of nutrition of organisms in this group can be either by synthesizing their own food autotrophic or getting it from the environment heterotrophic. This group includes bacteria, blue-green algae or cyanobacteria, and Mycoplasma. Protista includes many kinds of unicellular eukaryotic organisms. Some of these organisms use appendages, such as hair-like cilia or whip-like flagella for moving around. Their mode of nutrition can be autotrophic or heterotrophic. Examples are unicellular algae, diatoms and protozoans. Fungi are heterotrophic eukaryotic organisms. They use decaying organic material as food and are therefore called saprophytes. Many of them have the capacity to become multicellular organisms at certain stages in their lives. They have cell walls made of a tough complex sugar called chitin. Examples are yeast and mushrooms. Plantae are multicellular eukaryotes with cell walls. They are autotrophs and use chlorophyll for photosynthesis. Thus, all plants are included in this group. The first level of classification among plants depends on whether the plant body is well differentiated, distinct components. The next level of classification is based on whether the differentiated plant body is special tissues for the transport of water and other substances within it. Further classification looks at the ability to bear seeds and whether the seeds are enclosed within fruits. The first level of classification among plants depends on whether the plant body is well differentiated, distinct components. The next level of classification is based on whether the differentiated plant body is special tissues for the transport of water and other substances within it. Further classification looks at the ability to bear seeds and whether the seeds are enclosed within fruits. Cryptogamy with the thallophytes, the bryophytes and the pteridophytes have naked embryos that are called spores. The reproductive organs of plants in all these three groups are very inconspicuous, and they are therefore called cryptogamy, for those with hidden reproductive organs. On the other hand, plants with well-differentiated reproductive tissues that ultimately make seeds are called phanerogams. Seeds are the result of the reproductive process. They consist of the embryo along with stored food, which serves for the initial growth of the embryo during germination. The thallophytes, the bryophytes and the pteridophytes have naked embryos that are called spores. The reproductive organs of plants in all these three groups are very inconspicuous, and they are therefore called cryptogamy, for those with hidden reproductive organs. Gymnosperms is made from two Greek words. Gymno means naked and sperma means seed. The plants of this group bear naked seeds and are usually perennial, evergreen and woody. Examples are pines and deodar. Angiosperms is made from two Greek words. Angio means covered and sperma means seed. The seeds develop inside an organ which is modified to become the fruit. These are also called flowering plants. Plant embryos in seeds have structures called cotyledons. Cotyledons are called seed leaves because in many instances they emerge and become green when the seed germinates. Thus, cotyledons represent a bit of pre-designed plant in the seed. The angiosperms are divided into two groups on the basis of the number of cotyledons present in the seed. Plants with seeds having a single cotyledon are called monocotyledonous or monocots. Plants with seeds having two cotyledons are called dicots. The cryptogam scientific name cryptogamy is a plant in the wide sense of the word that reproduces by spores, without flowers or seeds. Cryptogamy Greek platinum cryptos, hidden plus a, gamine, to marry means hidden reproduction, referring to the fact that no seed is produced, thus cryptogams represent the non-seed-bearing plants. The thallophyta are a polyphyletic group of non-mobile organisms traditionally described as thalloid plants, relatively simple plants or lower plants. The thallophyta are a polyphyletic group of non-mobile organisms traditionally described as thalloid plants, relatively simple plants or lower plants. Thallophyta plants that do not have well-differentiated body design fall in this group. The plants in this group are commonly called algae. These plants are predominantly aquatic. Examples are Spirogyra, Ulothrix, Cladophora and Chara. These are called the amphibians of the plant kingdom. The plant body is commonly differentiated to form stem and leaf-like structures. The plant body is commonly differentiated to form stem and leaf-like structures. However, there is no specialized tissue for the conduction of water and other substances from one part of the plant body. Marchantia is a genus in the family Marchantiaceae of the order Marchantiales, a group of liverworts. These are simple plants without roots or vascular systems. They were once considered related to mosses and part of division Bryophyta, but more recently have been assigned their own plant division, Marchantiophyta. Marchantia thallus shows differentiation into two layers, an upper photosynthetic or assimilatory region and a lower storage region with a well-defined upper epidermis with air channels barrel-shaped. It features tiny cup-like structures called amylcups, which is used for asexual reproduction. Multicellular purple-colored scales and unicellular rhizoids are present on the ventral surface of the thallus. Antheridia and Archaegonia are present on special erect gametophores called antheridophores and archaegoniophores respectively, borne on separate thylae. Hence, they are heteropallic. Funaria is a genus of approximately 200 species of moss. Funaria hygrometrica is the most common species. Funaria hygrometrica is called cord moss because of the twisted seed which is very hygroscopic and untwists when moist. The name is derived from Latin word funis meaning the rope. Capsules are abundant with the moss surviving as spore when conditions are not suitable. Moss plant Funaria grows in dense patches or cushions in moist, shady and cool places during the rainy season. It has a height of 3 to 5 centimeters, the radial symmetry with a differentiation of an axis or stem, leaves or phylloids and multicellular colorless branched rhizoids with oblique septa. These are primitive multicellular, autotrophic, shade-loving, amphibious plants. They reproduce by spore formation. They have no vascular system. Root-like structures called rhizoids are present. They show alternation of generation, i.e. the gametophytic stage alternates with the sporophytic stage. Richa is a genus of liverworts in the order Marchantiales. One of the more than 100 species in this genus is the slender Richa floritans, which can be found floating in ponds, and is sometimes used in aquariums. The plant body is a thallus that is not differentiated into root, stem and leaf. Pteridophytes reproduce and disperse via spores. Because they produce neither flowers nor seeds, they are referred to as cryptogams. The group includes ferns, horsetails, club mosses, spike mosses and quillworts. In this Pteridophyta group, the plant body is differentiated into roots, stem and leaves and has specialized tissue for the conduction of water and other substances from one part of the plant body to another. Some examples are Marchantia, ferns and horsetails. In Pteridophyta the plant body is differentiated into roots, stem and leaves and has specialized tissue for the conduction of water and other substances from one part of the plant body to another. Some examples are Marchantia, ferns and horsetails. The thallophytes, the bryophytes and the pteridophytes have naked embryos that are called spores. The reproductive organs of plants in all these three groups are very inconspicuous, and they are therefore called cryptogamy, or those with hidden reproductive organs. Thallophyta do not have well-differentiated body design. The plant body is commonly differentiated to form stem and leaf-like structures. However, there is no specialized tissue for the conduction of water and other substances from one part of the plant body. The plant body is differentiated into roots, stem and leaves and has specialized tissue for the conduction of water and other substances from one part of the plant body to another. Pteridophyta, plants with well-differentiated reproductive tissues that ultimately make seeds, are called phanerogams. Seeds are the result of the reproductive process. They consist of the embryo along with stored food, which serves for the initial growth of the embryo during germination. This group is further classified, based on whether the seeds are naked or enclosed in fruits, giving us two groups, gymnosperms and angiosperms. This term is made from two Greek words, gymno, means naked, and sperma, means seed. The plants of this group bear naked seeds and are usually perennial, evergreen and woody. Examples are pines and deodar. Word angiosperms is made from two Greek words, angio means covered and sperma, means seed. The seeds develop inside an organ which is modified to become the fruit. These are also called flowering plants. Plant embryos in seeds have structures called cotyledons. Cotyledons are called seed leaves because in many instances they emerge and become green when the seed germinates. The angiosperms are divided into two groups on the basis of the number of cotyledons present in the seed. Plants with seeds having a single cotyledon are called monocotyledonous or monocots. Plants with seeds having two cotyledons are called dicots. These are organisms which are eukaryotic, multicellular and heterotrophic. Their cells do not have cell walls. Most animals are mobile. They are further classified based on the extent and type of the body design differentiation found. Animalia is classified into Protista, Platyhelminths, Nematode, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Protochordata, and Vertebrata. Again, Vertebrata is divided into Pisces, Amphibian, Reptilia, Aves, and mammals. The word Protista means organisms with holes. These are non-motile animals attached to some solid support. There are holes or pores all over the body. These lead to a final system that helps in circulating water throughout the body to bring in food and oxygen. These animals are covered with a hard outside layer or skeleton. The body design involves very minimal differentiation and division into tissues. They are commonly called sponges, and are mainly found in marine habitats. Euplectula is a genus of glass sponges which includes the well-known Venus flower basket, the aspergillum. Secon is a genus of calcareous sponges belonging to the family Cycetidae. These sponges are small, growing up to 7.5 cm and having length from 2.5 to 7.5, and are tube-shaped and often white to cream in color. Sponges are animals of the phylum Prifra/PRFR/, meaning pore bearer. They are multicellular organisms that have bodies full of pores and channels allowing water to circulate through them, consisting of jelly-like mesoidal sandwich between two thin layers of cells. Sponges have unspecialized cells that can transform into other types and which often migrate between the main cell layers and the mesoidal in the process. Sponges do not have nervous, digestive or circulatory systems. Instead, most rely on maintaining a constant water flow through their bodies to obtain food and oxygen and to remove wastes. These are animals living in water. They show more body design differentiation. There is a cavity in the body. The body is made of two layers of cells. One makes up cells on the outside of the body, and the other makes the inner lining of the body. Some of these species live in colonies of corals while others have a solitary lifespan hybrid. Jellyfish and sea anemones are common examples. The body of animals in this Pladhyhelminths is far more complexly designed. The body is bilaterally symmetrical, meaning that the left and the right halves of the body have the same design. There are three layers of cells from which differentiated tissues can be made, which is why such animals are called triploblastic. This allows outside and inside body linings as well as some organs to be made. There is thus some degree of tissue formation. However, there is no true internal body cavity or coelom, in which well-developed organs can be accommodated. The body is flattened dorsoventrally, meaning from top to bottom, which is why these animals are called flatworms. They are either free-living or parasitic. Some examples are free-living animals like planarians, or parasitic animals like liver flukes. The nematode body is also bilaterally symmetrical and triploblastic. However, the body is cylindrical rather than flattened. There are tissues, but no real organs, although the sort of body cavity or a pseudocoelom is present. These are very familiar as parasitic worms causing diseases, such as the worms causing elephantiasis filarial worms or the worms in the intestines roundworm or pinworms. Annelid animals are also bilaterally symmetrical and triploblastic, but in addition they have a true body cavity. This allows true organs to be packaged in the body structure. There is, thus, extensive organ differentiation. This differentiation occurs in a segmental fashion, with the segments lined up one after the other from head to tail. These animals are found in a variety of habitats, freshwater, marine water as well as land, earthworms and leeches. This is probably the largest group of animals. These animals are bilaterally symmetrical and segmented. There is an open circulatory system, and so the blood does not flow in well-defined blood vessels. The coelomic cavity is blood-filled. They have jointed legs. The word arthropod means jointed legs. Some familiar examples are prawns, butterflies, houseflies, spiders, scorpions and crabs. In the animals of this mollusc, there is bilateral symmetry. The coelomic cavity is reduced. There is little segmentation. They have an open circulatory system and kidney-like organs for excretion. There is a foot that is used for moving around. Examples are snails and mussels. In Greek, ikinos means hedgehog, and derma means skin. Thus, these are spiny-skinned organisms. These are exclusively free-living marine animals. They are triploblastic and have a coelomic cavity. They also have a peculiar water-driven tube system that they use for moving around. They have hard calcium carbonate structures that they use as a skeleton. Examples are starfish and sea urchins. Notochord is the chief distinguishing feature of chordates. It is a flexible rod-like structure which lies between the dorsal nerve tube and the gut. It is mesothermal in origin. It increases locomotory power and provide internal support. It supports the body in case of the lower chordates, while in higher vertebrates, it is present only during embryonic stages, and after that it is replaced by a vertebral column. Vertebral column is a bony structure made up of vertebrae and protects the spinal cord. Protochordates are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic and have a coelom. In addition, they show a new feature of body design, namely the notochord, at least at some stages during their lives. The notochord is a long rod-like support structure. Cord equals string that runs along the back of the animal, separating the nervous tissue from the gut. It provides a place for muscles to attach for ease of movement. Protochordates may not have a proper notochord present at all stages in their lives or for the entire length of the animal. Protochordates are marine animals. Examples are balanoglossus, Hurtmania and Amphioxus. Vertebrata animals have a true vertebral columnate internal skeleton, allowing a completely different distribution of muscle attachment points to be used for movement. Vertebrates are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, coelomic and segmented, with complex differentiation of body tissues and organs. All chordates possess the following features. I have a notochord. I have a dorsal nerve cord. I are triploblastic. V have paired gill pouches. V are coelomate. Vertebrates are grouped into 5 classes. These are fish. They are exclusively aquatic animals. Their skin is covered with scale/plates. They obtained oxygen dissolved in water by using gills. The body is streamlined, and a muscular tail is used for movement. They are cold-blooded and their hearts have only 2 chambers, unlike the 4 that humans have. They lay eggs. We can think of many kinds of fish, some with skeletons made entirely of cartilage, such as sharks, and some with a skeleton made of both bone and cartilage, such as tuna or rohu. Amphibian animals differ from the fish in the lack of scales, in having mucus glands in the skin, and a 3-chambered heart. Respiration is through either gills or lungs. They lay eggs. These animals are found both in water and on land. Frogs, toads and salamanders are some examples. Reptilian animals are cold-blooded, have scales and breathe through lungs. While most of them have a 3-chambered heart, crocodiles have 4 heart chambers. They lay eggs with tough coverings and do not need to lay their eggs in water, unlike amphibians. Snakes, turtles, lizards and crocodiles fall in this category. These are warm-blooded animals and have a four-chambered heart. They lay eggs. There is an outside covering of feathers, and 2 forelimbs are modified for flight. They breathe through lungs. All birds fall in this category. Mammals are warm-blooded animals with four-chambered hearts. They have mammary glands for the production of milk to nourish their young. Their skin has hairs as well as sweat and oil glands. Most mammals familiar to us produce live young ones. However, a few of them, like the platypus and the echidna, lay eggs, and some, like kangaroos, give birth to very poorly developed young ones. Thank you. Viducation.in